Go.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And it is a good afternoon if you live in the state of New Mexico, because approximately 15 minutes ago, they gavelled out of their 2026 legislative session, a short session that was only meant for budgeting, apparently. We'll have our expert talk about that in just a moment. But Senate Bill 17 has died on the vine. Uh, and for those of you who've been geeking out on this issue, you guys know that Senate Bill 17 was an absolutely atrocious piece of legislation. What had everyone most spun up was it had an assault weapon ban and a magazine ban in there. But what a lot of people hadn't focused on was all of the devastating impacts it would have also had on your FFL industry. It would have crushed many small independent gun stores. It was a terrible piece of legislation. It's not the first time New Mexico's tried this. It will probably not be the last time that New Mexico tries this. But it is a big win, and it's a lesson for all of us to learn about how you can still win these battles even when you think the numbers are totally against you. Now, what we're going to do is we got Erik Rasmussen, who is the president of the New Mexico Firearms Industry Association, and we'll get him on. Erik, how you doing?
Hey, great, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. Now, you and I met the first time, I think, at a SHOT Show a couple years back, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a few years ago. It was another atrocious, egregious
bill. It was your governor's executive order where she thought she could just suspend concealed carry rights in certain jurisdictions that had first got me doing videos about New Mexico and connecting with the audience out there. And then we literally just ran into each other on the floor of SHOT Show, started talking. And what I want you guys, I'm going to let Erik introduce himself here in just a second here, but a lot of people really get very complimentary that, oh, Bill, you really seem to be up on all the things going on in other states. Not that I have the time and the energy to go in and geek out on stuff. I actually have boots on the ground in a lot of states. And the guy who's absolutely always kept Washington gun law completely apprised of everything that's going on down there is Erik. During this legislative session, he and I were exchanging multiple texts on a daily basis. So, Erik, I want to thank you for all the help you've allowed us to give our viewers and all the folks in New Mexico. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the New Mexico Firearms Industry Association, your role with them, and how people can get involved?
Well, we started this, I think it was about 5 years ago. I mean, I also own a gun store, and it's a collective of some of the different FFLs. Mostly it started out in the Albuquerque area, and we decided a collective voice was better off than an individual voice. So we started up our organization, and it's been growing slowly, and we're now getting more people from outside the Albuquerque area joining with us as well. Plus a lot of individuals that just want to be involved. And when we go up there as a collective voice, as an organization, as a local entity, not the NRA, not NSSF as much as they help out, but we're a group of local business owners going up there talking about how this is going to affect us, how it's going to affect our employees, how it's going to affect the citizens of New Mexico.
Well, God bless you for the work you're doing. And I think what I want the viewers to understand is that when you live in states like New Mexico or Washington, you're not what I would consider to be high-profile states. And so sometimes the Second Amendment foundations, the Gun Owners of America, and some of the other big national organizations are going to spend a little bit more time and attention on the bigger states with the bigger issues going on. So sometimes that local support that you get from like the New Mexico Firearms Industry Owners Association is so critical, because that might be the only voice you got down there sometimes. So again, they're linked up in the description box below. And New Mexico, listen, I can tell you these guys were fighting like holy hell this entire legislative session. So get on down there, get some skin in the game, and show them some love. So I want to talk to you about this process, because you and I were ping-ponging back and forth during this. So this thing comes out of the Senate, and it goes through a relatively normal course. Why don't you tell us how it progressed through the Senate before we get over to the House, where it hit the snag then?
So it was introduced as a Senate bill, We weren't really sure how it was going to, and it was one of the leading sponsors was one of the senators, um, who's been involved in about every anti-gun bill since she's been there. Um, I like to say she's our version of she's New Mexico's AOC.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Every state's got them.
Yep. Um, it went through as about what we expected. It was going to be rubber stamped on the way through, past, along party lines. Unfortunately, we're not one of the states to where we can get up and speak. We're usually limited to maybe a minute to be able to speak, and they'll have a limited amount. There is no back and forth. There is no question and answer, and so whatever they say, we have no means of rebutting anything that they say at that point. And there's a lot of false statements, shall we say, a lot of false information being put out there. So it went through there. It went into the House. It got debated on the floor, Senate floor. It got passed.
What are the numbers? What's the current majority in the state Senate? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think it's 25 to 15, somewhere around there.
All right, so a sizable margin.
Yeah, we did bring over a few state senators.
Okay.
We did bring a few over. That wasn't the final vote. I don't recall what the actual numbers were, but
there was a few defectors from the Democratic side that had voted against the bill.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
Cool. All right. Then it gets to the House, and what's the numbers in the House? It's bad, isn't it?
It's bad.
Yes, yeah, every state that's got these big majorities, it's always way worse in the House than it is in the Senate.
I think we needed to pull 10 or 11 in order to get it killed in the House. And from early polling, they had the votes in the House.
Okay.
In order to pass it.
Now, here's the one thing that did assist here a little bit is this is what's considered in New Mexico, as you explained to me, a short legislative session.
Correct. So they have a 60-day session and they have a 30-day session. And the 30-day session is originally it was designed to deal with budgetary issues. But they tended like to try to cram this other stuff through during these budget sessions.
Okay. All right. So it gets into the House, and where does it ultimately end up hitting the snag?
Well, it was at House Judiciary. It was late at night, which was the second House committee. And miraculously, a bunch of amendments appeared, 8 of them.
Yes.
Because it had
got them all right here, actually. Here they are.
There were some really bad ones, such as, these specific gun bans were going to affect individual officers.
Yep.
It was only for agencies that were exempt. It wasn't for individual officers. So some of the smaller communities where the officers are having to supply their own firearm, they would not be able to buy those. That was one of them. And they specifically said, nope, they can change their policy or they can pay for it if that's what they want to do. That's what they were saying in the committee. Just as one example.
But that brings up all of a sudden new wrinkles to the issue that some who may have been supporting this bill now suddenly become a little hesitant, like, whoa, can I support it in this form, or do we need to iron some of this stuff out, right?
Sure. And what about the small FFLs that run them out of their house, and now they have to have video of their inside and outside entrances to their home, all this other, we're getting into privacy issues.
Yep.
And those were other things that were brought up. So these were different things that were addressed in some of the amendments to these bills, as well as the storage from 2 years down to 6 months of all the video, which 2 years of video is.
Well, let me tell you about that, Eric. You raise a good point. So we had a thing here, House Bill 2118, that eventually got passed in some form. Originally, the bill was 5 years of storage. And I had some, we a lot of geeks up here in Seattle. So I had a few of them do a cost estimate. And they were like, no, you don't understand the types of servers you need for that kind of stuff. You have to retrofit your building. These are the types of servers that you have to cool and have to be separated from everything else. You almost got to run them on an entirely different grid. I mean, it was crazy. We got ours watered down to 6 months, which actually has turned out to be doable for the FFL. So that was a big issue because that would have been such a devastating cost increase for FFLs. It would have run many of them out of business.
tens of thousands of dollars, having that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands. Okay. So did you get a little lucky in who the makeup of the House Judiciary Committee was, and that you may have had, I know they had D's next to the name, but there are still some out there that have a sense of reasonableness to them or understand where their constituents are coming from, where these amendments suddenly raise legitimate issues for them?
I think that there was a few D's that were a little bit squishy on the issue. Plus, we were doing some heavy campaigning to get people to call in and put a little pressure on them as well. And we've done that every year to the point where when I've got up to testify and introduce myself, they're saying, "Yeah, we know who you are."
Okay, good. Hey, that's great. Congratulations.
We've shut down their servers with email coming in, and we've shut down their phone lines with the number of phone calls that are coming in. So.
But see, what I want everyone to understand is that is what Erik and all the folks in New Mexico are doing. That is exactly how democracy is supposed to work. You get to air your grievances with your elected officials. Now, we can't control whether or not they're going to listen to it or not.
Right.
But kudos to everyone in New Mexico who took the time to get in the fight. It's awesome. So when did you begin to kind of realize, like, hey man, this bill might actually stall out? When did that realization?
It was about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, whenever that session ended, and they only had two of the Democrats speaking on it, and the last one being the House Speaker. That was when I started thinking, well, maybe this. And he said to roll the bill. We're going to roll the bill because we need to look at these amendments, and we don't have time to do that right now. That was my first inkling that, maybe we've done something. Maybe we've headed it off this time.
When they say roll the bill, do they mean roll that to another committee committee hearing? Which at this point you're down to the last week or so, or less than that of the legislative session. How many more times is that committee going to convene?
Right. So that judiciary usually convenes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That was Friday. They could have made a special committee hearing on Saturday. That did not happen. It didn't happen on Monday. We didn't see it scheduled. We just kind of kept watching, and we're hearing little things, but you hear little things all the time, but you never know until that gavel drops for sure.
Right. That's why I didn't say much. I was like, man, if I start saying something, they're going to pull something out at the last second here.
And we've seen it happen. So that's why, yes, we were all kind of keeping quiet as well. We didn't want to anger anybody to the point. Well, we'll show them what we can do.
Right. You start dancing on their grave before they're actually buried. Yeah, that's Can in your state legislature, can the majority party vote to suspend the rules?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, that's one thing they can do here in Washington State is like, oh, well, you got to put it back on for second reading and third reading. They just vote to suspend the rules and bada boom, bada bang, and they just skip. Here we go. Let's go. So it wouldn't surprise me, actually, because state legislatures have a tendency to have those rules in place. Okay. So this is the second time you guys have dodged this.
In essence, we've dodged a number of essentially it's a repackaged Heinrich's Go Safe Act.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
So we've dodged that a few times so far. Like you said in the beginning, they added a whole bunch more onto this bill. We've gone through the magazine bans. One of the other ones that just always strikes me, it's almost humorous, is the 50 BMG ban. I've never heard of anybody committing a crime with a 50 BMG. But that
I only know a handful of people who actually own one, even.
Right. So I don't. A lot of this stuff is coming from other states and reworked. Yep. I think they all pass it around and see what can we get.
Erik, it's every town and the Bloomberg groups and that they write this legislation, and people are like, oh, well, it's not that bad. No, it actually is that bad, because I could show you emails of our legislator, because I told you every state's got one. We got one here in this state too. She's in the House of Reps. She represents Queen Anne neighborhood in Seattle. She writes all the gun bills. We have emails that we've gotten on public disclosure of her exchanging drafts of the bills with every town, and every town literally adding language and saying, well, in California, they did this, and literally cut and pasting it together to put a bill together. That's exactly how this works.
Yeah, they had their expert witness who was a former ATF um, director, regional director, who recently retired and now works for Everytown. And some of the
know who this person is, actually.
Yeah. And to listen to her and what comes out of her, one of the big things they were saying, well, all of these guns that are being used in crimes, they all 75 or 85% of them were purchased from an FFL within the state of New Mexico. And we're looking at each other, well, wouldn't that be better if they were all 100% legally purchased?
Yeah.
We're not doing the straw purchases like they claim. And they passed a statewide straw purchase ban 2 years ago, in addition to the federal one. So they said they could prosecute if the feds weren't going to do it. And one of the questions we asked was, okay, well, where are all these people that you prosecuted that have made the straw purchases?
Yeah. I mean, how's that law being enforced right now? You just clearing them off the streets right now?
Yeah. So, it's again, it's one of those things I wish there was a give and take. I wish there was a question and answer. That's not something that they allow. In all the years I've been testifying, I've been asked questions, I think, twice when I was up there.
Here's the thing, you and I were also kind of geeking out on before we went live, and this is, and I'm dealing with this a little bit in Virginia. I'm dealing with this a little bit in Colorado, and this is something I've been through in Washington State already, which is everyone seems to rally to the cause when there's this crappy gun bill kicking around. And everyone's like, oh my God, what are we going to do to stop it? What are we going to do to stop it? But understand, if this was a football game, we're just past the 2-minute warning of the fourth quarter there. Okay. We are late in the ball game. You got a piece of legislation that is this close to making it to your governor's desk. And so New Mexico and other states that are going through this, understand you got to start winning this freaking football game in the first quarter. And that is in your local elections.
Yep.
Right. Because these numbers, if these margins weren't where they were in the state of New Mexico, and maybe some of the people with D's next to the name are more if they exist, who knows, but the old fashioned D's that we used to deal with in the 80s and the 90s had a sense of reasonableness. Some of them come from rural communities where, gun ownership's kind of a big deal. And so they would be a little hesitant on those issues. Then you get sometimes I get these bills. Someone sends me a bill from Tennessee. Look what this crazy legislator in Tennessee proposed. And you look, and it's a crazy piece of legislation. Why don't I do a video on it? Because there's a double supermajority of Republicans in that state. It's never going to happen to them. So New Mexico and all the other states, Colorado, you're kind of in this boat right now. Virginia, you're in this boat. Michigan, Wisconsin, your 2 states, Minnesota, you guys are all states that you got to really carefully watch this, because you're kind of on a teetering point there. Don't just jump into the fight with local groups just when it's all hitting the fan. Get involved in your local elections, pick candidates, vet candidates, support candidates, get the word out there, and make sure that gun owners get out and vote. That's probably a big problem in your state too, isn't it, Erik?
I think it's a big problem. And it's just as you described it. It's always the last minute that we're having a fight, and something that I just put out to through the X platform was, thanking everybody for all their hard work that they did do. But let's, between now and next year, get out and vote. Make sure that you're in communication with your legislators. Let them know that this is not something that you support, not something you want them to support. Let's be proactive on this rather than reactive on this.
Yeah. Well, listen, number one, thanks a million for keeping me in the loop. You have been my go-to source of information down there in New Mexico. And also, thanks a million for all the hard work that you and everyone down there put in. Why don't you one more time tell everyone a little bit about how they can help out the New Mexico Firearm Industry Association?
Okay, I'm not sure if it posted up in the chat or not. I'm not seeing that box here.
If you put it in chat, it will be on the YouTube platform. It's just we're running this off a streaming.
Okay, so yes, I put it on the little chat.
And it is also linked up in the description box. So for any of you who are watching live, almost 400 of you right now, hey, thanks a million for joining us. If you're out in New Mexico, hey, this is a good day. Wait until happy hour and then have a happy hour today. Has earned it. For those of you watching on replay, also though, the link is in the description box. So get in there and show them some love.
So yes, it's NewMexicoFIA.org. You can go there. You can join. You can You can get on an email list. You can be a member. You can donate you can donate and not be a member. It's whatever you'd like to do. Anything that we have is appreciated, because unfortunately these kind of fights take money. And we actually have a lobbyist now too, who's been very instrumental. But doing advertising, getting out, doing text blasts, all of that stuff takes an enormous amount of money. And if you saw our group, you'd go, wow, you're doing all this. Yeah, we're a real small group.
Yeah, on a shoestring budget is how most of these groups are running. They're running on shoestring budgets. So I want everyone.
From what I understand, we're like the first of their kind. We're kind of like a state level NSSF.
You in Illinois. Illinois has one. The Federal Firearm Licensees of Illinois, and they've actually dropped a bunch of amicus briefs on Supreme Court cases and stuff. So you guys are the only two states that really have these big prominent groups. And New Mexico, you're very fortunate to have these people fighting, but you got to get in the fight with them, and you can't just show up in the fourth quarter when it's hitting the fan, man. You got to stay engaged in this fight all the time.
And Bill, I want to thank you for putting us out letting me be on the show with you today.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for the word that you've been putting out and spreading. I mean, that's what it takes. It takes all of us sticking together to get a win and to make sure that our rights aren't being violated.
Well, and the best thing is, Eric, is that we can just speak truth, because I do believe, and this is why I believe strongly in the mission of Washington gun law, and what people like you are doing is that because the law and the Constitution and the facts and common sense are all on our side, the biggest and most powerful tool we have in this war is education, the truth and educating, and we got to just keep doing it. So again, real big thanks to you. Now, we're going to log off, but I want to keep you on, and we're going to talk in the green room, because I want to talk to you about something else more related to perhaps next year's legislative session. So anyways, listen, for all of you who tuned in, I appreciate you all being here in New Mexico. This is a good day, but listen, New Mexico, I want you to understand this. You have won a big battle. Congratulations. But you have not won the war yet, because this is a never-ending war. They will continue to come after your gun rights. They will use any means humanly possible. So buckle up, get in the fight right now. You got another legislative session, a long legislative session next year, so it'll be twice as long. That means they could do twice as much damage. So get in the ball game right now. Eric, thanks a million, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks again, Bill. Appreciate you.